Okay, so for those of you who stuck with me through the house, this is the subway rider. And I did write this before the house, but it's better than the house. A lot better. You can actually take this one seriously, I think. And so I'm going to start recording that to you now. The Subway Rider, a novel by Stephen McFarlane. Here's the title page. I can tell that it's backwards, but that is such a badass font. I had to show you guys. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's a wonderful font. Okay, but here we go. I'm going to be reading the first 3 chapters. It should take me 5 videos to complete it. There's 15 chapters. So here we go. Chapter 1, My Memoirs. Well, exactly 2 months ago, I was on a subway that had an electrical fire. Oops, you weren't supposed to know that yet. Anyway, this is the start of my memoirs from being on that subway. I shouldn't say that. It was the metro. See? Even I get confused. I remember it as if it were yesterday. It all happened on Saturday, April 19th. I went down the escalator in Pentagon City Mall. I was going to the place I dreaded the most. Underneath the ground. Underneath your feet. I could not imagine all the dirt I would have on my clothes after this experience. I was not used to dirt. My father was a lawyer in the best place in the world, New York City. I had never ridden the subway, being rich and all, but I never thought I would end up facing what I had to face. Right down that escalator I remembered when I heard the news. It was only a month ago. I got home, typed in the security system number, and walked into the house. I looked at the pictures on the wall as I walked down the hallway. I looked at the pictures of my mom. For some reason she seemed different, like if it were the start of something new. I don't know what feeling I had, but it was like I had lost her and like I just gained her. I came into the coffee room and found my dad crying. I asked him what was the matter. He replied the thing I dreaded most. He put his hand on my shoulder. "Son, please sit down," the father said. "This might be hard for you to take." He sat me down on the most comfortable sofa in the house. He started to cry. He cried and cried and cried. After he settled down again, he put his hand on my shoulder. "Son," my father said, "your mother, my wife, has been murdered." Chapter 2, The Oath. I raced to my bedroom and cried. I cried and cried and cried. I couldn't accept the fact my mother had been murdered. I raced to my parents' bedroom to find if I could grasp anything in which I could remember her by. I went back to my bedroom. From that day on, I made an oath. An oath which would last a lifetime. I swore from that day on that I would find out who the murderer was and to make sure he or she died. I walked down the stairs. I knew I had to discuss things with my dad. He probably would have something to say. It's been 4 days and I still haven't talked to my dad about our loss. I just haven't had the heart to. I went down and sat on the couch. For a second I forgot my dad was a lawyer. I knew we would discuss business. "Son, I know how you must feel. You'll never have the feelings I'm having. I feel sorrier for you than for me. Are you mad at me?" "No, Dad, of course not. I'm mad at the murderer. I'll make sure he dies." There was a long pause. I thought we were going to weep together for the loss of my mom, but to my surprise, he did not weep. In fact, he smiled. "Son, I think it's time for you to know some of the things I know and which you don't know." "You mean stuff at college?" "No, I mean the facts." He stared at me with a piercing glare. "Son, it's time for you to know the truth." Chapter 3, The Truth. I stood up. I had no idea what he was going to do. Would he make up some crazy lie to cover up the truth, or would he try to explain in an unknown language? "All right, son, this is the truth. It all started about 2 weeks ago. We, your mother and me, were discussing you, how you changed, and that sort of thing. But your mother said she was starting to distrust you every minute. And when she saw you punch that 6-year-old girl, which you tried to hide from her, she decided she was going to murder you." "No, that's impossible. Mom trusts me." "Oh yeah? How did she act before you went to school that day? She said she had a special surprise for me when she got home. Exactly. That surprise was going to be a stab in the back. So you knew what I had to do. I went downstairs and saw the knife behind her back. I quickly tried to grab it out of her hand. She put up a struggle, sliced my hands 3 times. Finally, I had the chance to grab it out of her hands. And when she weakened, I saw the chance. I did it. I murdered your mother. There was a silence. A pitiful, sad, sad silence. His eyes were too shocked to have been a lie. I'm sorry, Dad. That must be devastating for you. It makes sense. I mean, that you especially killed my mother. Just then, there was a knock at the door. I opened the door, and the homicide detective came in from the door. It was like Satan himself had come into my house. I hate things underneath the ground, everything underneath your feet. After all, that's where Satan and his followers live. I just heard everything your son just said. Sir, you're going on trial for homicide. That's it. That's the end of the first 3 chapters. I know, this is definitely a different vibe than the house was. It's a lot more serious, a lot more, shoot, words escape me right now. But you understand what I'm saying. It's a lot more serious. It's a lot darker. But I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoy it still. And for now, we're out.